Warren Buffett can be considered as one of the most successful investors of all time and is mostly known for his multi-billion dollar investment in companies like Coca-Cola, Bank of America, and Apple. In a 1995 shareholder meeting, he was asked what advice would he give to small account holders. And in this video, you will learn exactly how you can grow your small account from the great Warren Buffett himself. Let's get right into it.
Hello, my name is Howard Love. I'm from San Francisco. Thank you very much for this weekend in general and this meeting in particular. Recently at a talk at the Wharton Business School, Mr. Buffett, you indicated that you were talking about the problems of compounding large size, which I appreciate and understand. But you indicated, you're quoted in the local paper as saying that you are confident that if you were working with a sum closer to $1 million, that you could compound that at a 50% rate. For those of us who aren't saddled with the $100 billion problem, could you talk about what types of investments you'd be looking at and where in today's market you think significant inefficiencies exist? Thank you.
Yeah, I think I may have been very slightly misquoted, but I certainly said something to the effect. But working, I think I talked about this group I get together every 2 years and how I poll that group as to what they think they could compound money at it with 100,000, a million, 100 million, a billion, and other types of sums. And I pointed out how this group of 60 or so people that I get together with every couple of years, how their expectations of return would go very rapidly down this slope. It is true. I think I can name a half a dozen people that I think could compound $1 million, or at least they could earn 50% a year on $1 million, have that as an expectation. If they needed it, I mean, they'd have to get their full attention to be working on the sum. And those people could not compound money 100 million or a billion at anything remotely like that rate. I mean, there are little tiny areas which, if you follow what I said on the screen there on that Adam Smith interview a few years ago, if you start with A and you go through and you look at everything and you find small securities in your area of competence that you can understand the business, I think you can, and occasionally find little arbitrage situations or little wrinkles here and there in the market. I think working with a very small sum, that there is an opportunity to earn very high returns, but that advantage disappears very rapidly as the money compounds. Because from $1 million to 10 million, I would say it would fall off dramatically in terms of the expectable rate. Because there are little, you find very, very small things that you can make, and you're almost certain to make high returns on, but you don't find very big things that in that category today. I'll leave to you the fun of finding them yourselves. I mean, it's terrible to spoil the treasure hunt. And the truth is, I don't look for them anymore. Every now and then, I'll stumble into something just by accident. But I'm not in the business of looking for that. I'm looking for things that Berkshire could put its money in, and that rules out all of that sort of thing.
So let's pause for a second and recap what Warren Buffett has said. He knows about half a dozen persons who can compound $1 million at 50% per annum. That 6 persons he knows could not compound $100 million or $1 billion at the same rate. This is because as the sum of money increases, it gets harder to double. And this can be attributed to the volume of a stock and things like that. He also said that find small securities in your area of competence. Say for instance, you are a IT professional. You can find companies in those areas that you understand and believe in and can value them and predict their future. Then you take the risk on those companies, and those companies can in turn give you big rewards. Occasionally you can find that wrinkle in the market. You can find that one stock. Imagine you found a stock like Tesla or NIO a couple of years ago. Then that would be an example of a wrinkle in the stock market. He also go on to say that he doesn't look at small companies anymore. This could be because he's so established now and he doesn't need to go and pick those little companies, because at the rate at which his portfolio is still compounding, it could be like a waste of time to him to go and find like a needle in a haystack. But for more passionate investors, you can go out and do your own research on small companies and pick a solid company and invest your money in. If you have been following me on TikTok, you would have noticed that I've made several posts where I'm saying that you can start with little and grow. You don't need a lot of money to get started with investing, but that is just a common misconception. If you have as little as $50, there is some broker out there that will facilitate you to be able to purchase stocks on their platform. So let's hear what else Warren Buffett has to say on investing with small amounts of money. And you will be surprised that all you have to do is just start and keep on adding and taking more risk as you go along.
But that I was working with a tiny amount of money. And so I would pour through volumes of businesses, and I would find one or two that I could put $10,000 into or $15,000 into that were just ridiculous. They were ridiculously cheap. And obviously, as the money increased, the universe of possible ideas started shrinking dramatically. The times were also better for doing it in that time. But I think if you're working with a small amount of money, with exactly the same background that Charlie and I have, and same ideas, same whatever ability we have, I think you can make very significant sums. But as soon as you start getting the money up into the millions, many millions, the curve on expectable results falls off just dramatically. Charlie?
Well, yeah, I think that's right. A brilliant man who can't get any money from other people and is working with a very small sum probably should work in very obscure stocks, searching out unusual mispriced opportunities. But that's such a small world. It may be a way for one person to come up, but it's a long slog.
Yeah, most smart people, unfortunately, in Wall Street figure that they can make a lot more money, a lot easier, just by one way or another, getting an override on other people's money or delivering services in some way that people. And the monetization of hope and greed, is a way to make a huge amount of money. And right now, it's just take hedge funds. I mean, I've had calls from a couple of friends in the last month that don't know anything about investing money. They've been unsuccessful and everything else. And one of them called me the other day and said, well, I'm forming a small hedge fund, 125 million. He was talking about, like the thought that since it was only 125 million, maybe we ought to put in 10 million or something of the sort. I mean, if you looked at this fellow's Schedule D on his 1040 for the last 20 years, you'd think he ought to be mowing lawns. But
Yeah.
But he may get his 125 million. I mean, and it's just astounding to me how willing people are during a bull market just to toss money around because they think it's easy. And of course that's what they felt about internet stocks a few years ago. They'll think about something else next year too. But the biggest money made in Wall Street in recent years has not been made by great performance, but it's been made by great promotion, basically. Charlie, do you have anything?
Well, I would state it even more strongly. I think the current scene is obscene. I think there's too much mania. There's too much chasing after easy money. There's too much misleading sales material about investments. There's too much on the television emphasizing speculation in stocks.